Something is hunting today, and it doesn't need your permission to enter. The 15th of August, 2025 is not a normal day. In fact, if you're outside your home right now, you may already be exposed to something your eyes can't see, but your spirit can feel. The air is heavier. Time feels disjointed. There's a strange stillness followed by a rising tension, like the kind right before a supernatural storm. And while the world is busy brushing it off, running errands and chasing noise, something is watching, waiting, tracking movement, and it is only ignoring those who were never chosen to begin with. But you were marked, which means today, you're either protected or vulnerable. If this message found you, it's because you're being warned. Chosen one. There is a divine reason you were stirred awake. Why your peace feels disturbed. Why your soul feels like it's standing at the edge of something it can't explain. Because you are. And if you don't understand what today is, what's moving through the atmosphere, and how it targets those spiritually out of position, you won't just feel off, you'll feel attacked. Before we go any further, I need you to do 3 urgent things. Comment 777 right now if your spirit is already sensing that today is not safe. Like this video and subscribe, because what I'm about to reveal is part of an unfolding timeline that has already begun. And to every one of you who supported this channel through super thanks, you're doing more than donating. You are helping awaken and shield those who would otherwise be left spiritually defenseless. Now listen carefully, because what's happening today is no accident. And if you stay with me, you'll understand exactly why you were told not to leave your house. God's chosen ones. Do not leave your house on the 15th of August. Something is hunting you. Today is the 15th of August. To the average eye, it may seem like another day circled on the calendar. Another digital timestamp lost in routine. But for you, God's chosen one, this is not an ordinary day, because you did not merely wake up this morning. You awakened. Something ancient echoed through your spirit before your feet even touched the floor. You sensed it. The silence was heavier. The light felt different. The air moved like a whisper through dimensions you couldn't name. Why did your chest tighten before any bad news came? Why did your soul feel like it had been walking through a battlefield no one else could see? Because something ended last night that didn't need permission to leave. Behold, I will do a new thing, now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? Isaiah 43:19. And it did. It came like thunder wrapped in velvet. You didn't hear the bang, but you felt the shift. July, like a storm system that came to tear off the false scaffolding, didn't just pass. It rearranged the entire architecture of your atmosphere. You see, in spiritual architecture, some seasons function like demolition teams. Before heaven builds a palace, it flattens the illusion of comfort you've built around your old self. July was that demolition. August is the unveiling of the foundation. And now, the 15th of August stands as a divine threshold, a spiritual pressure point. Why does it feel like you're standing in a hallway with no doors? And yet your spirit hears one creaking open. That's because the door was never physical. It was always energetic, frequency-based, invisible to the untrained heart, yet undeniable to the chosen. And if your breathing has felt shallow, it's not anxiety, it's alignment. Your inner system is trying to match the frequency of a heaven shift. In the realm of physics, resonance happens when a system is driven at its natural frequency, causing it to vibrate with greater amplitude. That's what's happening to you. August didn't arrive, it activated. And now, anything unaligned in your spirit is beginning to tremble. But why is this day, the 15th of March, kept so specifically? Because heaven has coordinates, and when divine timing collides with your obedience, even silence is prophetic. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. Ecclesiastes 3:1. This is not a horoscope shift. This is not a lunar mood. This is divine design, intersecting human readiness. It is the clash between your eternal assignment and the parts of you that still want to hide. Remember Jonah? He was chosen, but he ran. He was assigned, but he fled into comfort, disguised as logic. And yet God disrupted the sea itself to realign his direction. August is doing the same. That storm in your emotions, that unsettled tension in your room, it's not punishment, it's pursuit. If I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Psalma 30:9-10. So why do you feel like the walls are closing in? Because they are. But not to trap you, to focus you. The distractions are shrinking, the exits are narrowing, and the false coping mechanisms that got you through July won't survive in the frequency of August. This is not a month for performing. This is a month of becoming. Kofi, a Ghanaian-born architect now restoring churches in post-war zones, once said, "You cannot rebuild the sacred on shaky land. You must dig until you find rock." That's what this is. Heaven has been digging you down to rock, not to destroy you, but to establish you. And yet, just like in the wilderness when serpents surrounded the Israelites, those who refused to gaze upon the bronze serpent perished. Disobedience in moments of divine instruction can be fatal, not always physically, but spiritually. Delay has a cost. The same applies now. Don't step outside the frequency zone. Something is hunting disobedience. The truth is, not everyone will make it through this door. Not because they were unworthy, but because they were unready. That's what happened to Saul. Once chosen, once anointed, but when fear outgrew his obedience, he was replaced. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has also rejected you from being king. 1 Samuel 15:23. Destiny does not wait for permission. It waits for posture. And posture is everything today. The enemy is not after your body. He is after your alignment. Nature understands this better than we do. A chrysalis must harden before the butterfly emerges. If it breaks too soon, the wings will never form. That tension in your soul, that is the hardening of the shell, not as punishment but as preparation for flight. Yet not everyone waits. Judas, one of the closest to Jesus, couldn't sit with discomfort. In haste, he made an irreversible decision and then begged for reversal. The tragedy wasn't the betrayal, it was in the timing. He broke before the full picture was revealed. You are not Judas. You are not Saul. You are not Jonah forever lost at sea. You are the one who hears the hum before the storm, who feels the air tighten before the announcement. You are the one August has been waiting for. Will you wait for it to fully open? Or will you walk ahead of your protection? This morning is not just the start of a new day. It is the beginning of spiritual convergence. If you step ahead, you may miss your cover. If you hesitate, the wave may not return. But if you stay centered, stay hidden, stay aligned, your name will be carried into places your feet have never touched. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Psalm 90:1. This is not a verse, it's an instruction. So be still, be bold, be ready. Because August didn't come to give you a reward. It came to reveal your readiness. And only those who are seated in alignment will be lifted in momentum. If today you feel weary, emotionally distant, quietly withdrawn, or even vaguely sorrowful, you are not broken. You are adjusting. This isn't collapse. This is calibration. It's your energetic system, your spirit, your nervous rhythm, aligning itself to a new heavenly frequency. But why does alignment feel so much like loss at first? Why does clarity begin with exhaustion? Because this transition demands stillness before it reveals instruction, and the first law of divine elevation is always separation. Today, chosen one, you are not being antisocial. You are being spiritually recalibrated. Silence is not your punishment, it is your protection. And more than that, it's your portal. The volume of the external world notifications, was, plans, opinions is too distorted today to carry heaven's resonance. You will not hear clarity through chaos. You must descend into the temple within, as Jesus often withdrew to lonely places to pray. Luke 5:16. Today, you too must withdraw, not to escape, but to return. Be still, and know that I am God. Psalm 46:8. Today is not a suggestion. It is a spiritual sequence. And the code will not unlock if you are surrounded by noise. What you're sensing now, the disconnection from others, the soft ache in your chest, the overwhelming desire to not be perceived isn't a flaw. It's a holy invitation. Can you sense the echo of something larger moving through your body like a whisper carried by thunder? You've likely noticed your mind isn't functioning at full pace. Your memories flicker in fragments. Your joy feels half present. The outside world continues its regular motion, but something inside you is paused, as if the divine has placed your spirit under a translucent dome. That's not mental fog. That's spiritual insulation. Because heaven is speaking today, and the universe doesn't shout. It vibrates, and vibration is only felt in silence. Psychologists call it neuroplastic shifting, when the brain rewires itself after a shock, trauma, or revelation. Your spirit is undergoing something similar. July, with all its intensity, brought internal tremors. It unearthed things you didn't know you were still carrying, words never said, emotions never grieved, goodbyes you whispered only in your mind. August is not asking for you to solve these things. It is asking you to clear space so that heaven can solve them through you. A renowned spiritual writer and priest, Henry Nouwen, once said, "Without solitude, it is virtually impossible to live a spiritual life." He understood that spiritual clarity does not come through striving, but through stillness. That's what August wants from you today. Sacred stillness. No announcements, no affirmations, just alignment. But beware, if you do not make space willingly, space will be made for you forcibly. The kingdom does not negotiate with resistance. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Matthew Sheba, Tisha Asara. When clutter remains where revelation needs to dwell, the spirit will cleanse by removal. Better that you choose stillness than have it imposed through loss. You may feel tempted to explain your withdrawal today, to justify your silence. You don't need to. Some battles are invisible because they're sacred. Some upgrades happen in spiritual darkness because heaven doesn't like to perform surgery in crowds. Jesus raised Jairus' daughter in a sealed room, not on stage. So what should you actually do today? As soon as you awaken, don't reach for your phone. Reach inward. What thought met you first? Was it peace? Was it sorrow? Don't label it. Just listen. Then place your hand over your chest, not for emotion, but to hear the drumbeat of your divine design. Every tear, every journal entry, every breath held too long, these are sacred data, and you must let them move. Cry if needed. Sit in silence without music. Light a candle. Write down the things you pretend don't affect you. Let it all surface. Because the price of entry into August is inner cleansing. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Psalm 51:10. Did you notice your dreams last night? That strange image that lingered, that conversation that didn't make sense? Those weren't random. They were encrypted prophetic fragments, carrying instructions hidden beneath symbols. The Holy Spirit often speaks through dreams because our waking minds are too defensive to receive raw truth. In the last days, I will pour out my Spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Acts 2:17. Each emotional fluctuation you're experiencing today, joy without a cause, grief without memory, is a frequency readjustment. You are not malfunctioning. You are becoming compatible with the room. Heaven is preparing for you. And this is why the silence is so heavy. Because it's not silence at all. It's construction noise in the spirit realm. Angers clearing, debris. Heaven making room. The Holy Spirit excavating roots you, buried with busyness. But here's the secret. Thresholds are never visible. They're only known by those who are awake. On the morning of the 1st of August, a spiritual seal was placed on your life. It wasn't written in ink, but in vibration. You may have started that day brushing your teeth like usual, but something invisible clicked. A feeling barely noticeable hovered in your chest, unease or lightness. Not fear, just knowing. That was your summons. You are now operating at a different frequency. The old coordinates won't work anymore. July demanded that you release everything that couldn't survive where you're going. Sometimes that meant people. Sometimes that meant versions of yourself that were built around survival, not purpose. Sometimes it meant a grief so old you no longer remembered the origin, but now heaven remembers. And heaven is reclaiming every fragment you left behind in order to make you whole again. So today, don't fight the silence. Don't explain the solitude. Don't run from the aching. Whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches, to the one who is victorious. I will give some of the hidden manna. Revelation time, Sheva Sarah. Nive, you are not weak. You are holy. You are not falling apart. You are being consecrated. You are not alone. You are surrounded by heaven. You may not understand why everything has felt so heavy these past few days, why your mood changed without warning, why your tears came before the thoughts did, or why a single name from your past suddenly floated to the surface. This isn't a coincidence. This is a divine pattern. July didn't walk away quietly. It pushed. One last time, against everything false that tried to remain. You were never meant to carry those weights into August. Some chapters were beginning to be closed, and the ache you feel now is the sound of them finally ending. No one pours new wine into old wineskins. Mark 2:22. Not because the wine is unworthy, but because the skin cannot hold the weight of transformation. Your spirit knows this. That's why today you crave silence. Why your soul doesn't want to answer anyone. Why does everything external feels like static? Don't fight this. Don't diagnose it. This is not a breakdown. It's a reset. You're being realigned from within. What looks like disconnection is actually preparation. Today is not for doing. It is for noticing. And noticing is not passive. It is a deeply spiritual posture. You are not withdrawing out of fear. You are being summoned into sacred territory. The notifications on your phone, the constant stream of other people's emotions, the noise of the world, all of it will block the frequency that's trying to reach you now. Heaven is speaking, but not in thunder. It speaks in whispers, and whispers are only heard in silence. That's why this morning felt different. Maybe you dreamed of someone you haven't seen in years. Maybe you remembered a pain you thought you buried. Maybe your body felt light and heavy all at once. These are not ghosts. These are instructions, echoes of doors that need to close before you can walk through the one in front of you. Don't hold them. Don't fix them. Don't spiritualize them into something they're not. Just receive, release, and rise. Psychologists call it emotional residue, the lingering imprint of unprocessed experience. Scripture calls it strongholds. Whatever the name, the truth remains. You can't carry yesterday's vibration into tomorrow's glory. That's why God is asking you today to clear space, to sit, to breathe, to notice, and to do it with reverence, because this is not a break in your routine. It is a divine seal being placed over your month. There is a historical lesson here. 2. One carved not in Scripture, but in consequence. In the 20th century, Richard Nixon, once the most powerful man in the world, ignored his inner alarms. When the Watergate scandal began as a whisper, he smothered it with distraction, control, and denial. He refused stillness, refused accountability, and clung to power even as the cracks widened. In the end, the silence he avoided became the silence that swallowed his name. A public fall always begins with private refusal to listen. You are not Nixon. You are not clinging to what is decaying. You are being called into something sacred, something weightless. And that calling doesn't start with applause or elevation. It starts with solitude and surrender. En Ethiopian Nun once said, God does not speak over noise. He waits. And when the room is finally silent, he begins to build. That's what today is, not punishment, but preparation. The stillness you're experiencing isn't emptiness. It's insulation. God has pulled you inward, not to hide you, but to seal you. So, go where it's quiet. Don't explain. Don't apologize. Sit with your breath. Touch your chest. Let yourself exist without performance. Even if you cry, especially if you cry, these are the rituals of cleansing. And heaven is not asking you to solve your pain today. It is asking you to see it, name it, and let it go. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Psalm 139-23. That is your prayer posture now, not because you're broken, but because you're becoming. If you press forward today in fear, in hyperactivity, in denial, you risk writing July's pain into August's promise. But if you sit still, if you release, if you trust the rhythm of rest, this month will unfold in signs, answers, and opportunities that you did not have to chase. This isn't just a new calendar date. This is a holy alignment point. And heaven doesn't care what you planned. It cares how you posture. August doesn't respond to performance. It responds to surrender. It doesn't reward the loud. It empowers the light. You are not behind. You are not lazy. You are in the middle of a consecrated transition. And today, your only assignment is this: be present, be still, be honest, be empty, and heaven will do the rest. Maybe this morning, when your eyes opened, you didn't want to do anything. Maybe when you reached for your phone, Something inside you recoiled. The very idea of messages, notifications, conversations, it felt like too much. That wasn't apathy. That wasn't irresponsibility. That was divine insulation. The 15th of August didn't come to push you forward. It came to pull you deeper. It came as a checkpoint, not a launch pad. And today, your entire body and spirit are resisting what drains and pulling toward what nourishes. That resistance is your protection, because this is not a day for participation, it is a day for positioning. Noise, even well-intended, can scatter what heaven is trying to gather. The more you engage outwardly today, the more you dilute the frequency that's being calibrated inside you. Your presence with others could cost you your alignment with God. That's not drama. That's design. Come out from among them and be separate, says the Lord. 2 Corinthians 6:17. This isn't about arrogance, it's about architecture. You're being built differently now, and divine construction begins in silence. When the world shouts, the Spirit whispers. And if you miss today's whisper, you may spend the rest of the month trying to rebuild what would have come easily in quiet. But why is isolation so important now? Why, in the middle of the month, does everything inside you pull away from conversation, crowds, and movement? Because halfway through August is where the true distinction happens. This is the pivot, the unveiling. The moment where what you planted in silence begins to rise or begins to rot. Think of a single drop of pure water falling into a bowl. If left undisturbed, that drop will ripple outward in perfect waves. But the moment someone taps the bowl, the pattern is broken. What's trying to reach you today from heaven is that ripple, and your only assignment is to keep the bowl still. In quietness and trust shall be your strength. Isaiah 30:15. That verse is not poetic, it's procedural. You are being filled, but only if you stay still, only if you resist the noise that tries to tell you that stillness is unproductive. And still, something inside you may whisper, am I missing something? Should I be doing more today? Should I push through this stillness and just function normally? But that is not your voice. That's the echo of a system that's trained you to worship exhaustion. It's the same voice that once echoed in the mind of Napoleon Bonaparte, a man who once declared himself an emperor by force, who believed rest was weakness and stillness was threat, obsessed with movement and domination. Napoleon marched into Russia without pause for season, weather, or the readiness of his men. He mistook momentum for strategy, and it cost him everything. His kingdom scattered, his influence collapsed, his legacy darkened, because he couldn't recognize that rest is a form of wisdom. That pause is not retreat, it's restraint. You are not Napoleon. You are not proving your power through movement. You are discovering it through stillness. If you stay quiet today just for a few hours, you will feel the drop begin to spread. It won't shout. It won't announce itself. It will feel like clarity softening behind your eyes, like pressure lifting from your rib cage, like a frequency rising just beneath your thoughts. And once you've felt it, you'll know this is the real turning point. Not the first day, not the big decision, but this silent middle. The kingdom of God is within you. Luke 17:21. And kingdoms aren't built in chaos. They are established in silence. One brick of awareness at a time. The more you notice, the more heaven reveals. The more you slow down, the more heaven speeds up around you. This is divine inversion. And it starts with a whisper. Can you hear it yet? Can you feel the weight of July lifting? Can you recognize how your nervous system is calming down? Not because the world got quieter, but because your spirit chose not to match its volume. The whisper inside you today is the blueprint, the thing that tells the rest of the structure where to rise. If you ignore it, the whole foundation warps. But if you honor it, even with an hour of solitude, August will begin to build around you what you no longer need to chase. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. Psalm 23:2-3. That restoration doesn't come in a crowd. It comes when you step away from the noise. When you say no, not because you're rude, but because you are being rooted. And yes, it may feel like nothing is happening, but something is. The drop is spreading. The frequency is calibrated, and you are being prepared not just to receive, but to resonate. You are not meant to carry the static of last month. You are being tuned like an instrument for the clarity of what's coming. So today, protect your frequency. Honor the whisper. Sit with the quiet. Let the drop spread. Because this morning wasn't about what you were supposed to do. It was about what you were finally ready to hear. Chosen one. If you felt like something in you was crushed by the weight of July, you're not imagining it. That month came with pressure, internal and external. The pressure to explain your pain. The pressure to hold it together. The pressure to act like you weren't unraveling. But the unraveling wasn't a failure. It was preparation. Because what bends in July is often what blooms in August. August is not here to rush you. It's here to rebuild you. Deliberately. Patiently. Layer by sacred layer. If July stripped away what was unsustainable, then August is laying down the blueprint for what will last. But here's the truth no one likes to admit. Even divine elevation requires human cooperation. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Psalm 127:1. The shifts you're praying for cannot happen if you don't align your posture. And that alignment begins now. Today is not just another box on the calendar. Today is a spiritual axis, a point that determines whether August will carry you or confront you. If you spend today scattered, distracted, rushed, you'll miss the frequency of guidance heaven is trying to release. But if you move through this day with awareness, with intention, you'll find that August doesn't need to be chased. It begins to unfold around you. But what does awareness look like in a world addicted to distraction? It looks like turning your phone off, not out of discipline, but devotion. It looks like dimming the lights in your room to let your inner senses awaken. It looks like sitting down in stillness, not to meditate your way out of pain, but to breathe your way into presence. When you close your eyes today and take that breath, do it with holy intention. Feel the remnants of July still clinging to your ribs, and with each exhale, release them. That ache in your chest, that fatigue in your limbs, that inner emptiness you can't quite describe. It isn't dead space. It's living soil, the seedbed of new life. You are not depleted. You are being made ready to receive. In physics, potential energy is stored, not in motion, but in position. That's what today is, stored promise, positioned breakthrough. Behold, I make all things new. Revelation 21:5. That verse isn't just cosmic, it's cellular. Heaven is restructuring you at the atomic level. But new life only grows where there's room. You must choose to empty. And yet, a question rises like smoke in the mind. Can I really let go of what I couldn't control? Can I surrender what never made sense? Yes. Not because it doesn't matter, but because it no longer belongs in your next chapter. There's a danger, however, in beginning this moment without honoring its depth. History remembers King Uzziah, a man who once walked righteously with God, who built strongholds, invented engines, and gained fame. But when his strength became pride, he rushed into the temple to offer what he was not permitted to touch. He violated sacred timing, and in doing so, lost everything. His downfall wasn't because he lacked favor, it was because he lost reverence. He confused authority with entitlement. You are not Uzziah, but the warning is real. Do not run ahead of grace. Do not confuse momentum with maturity. August doesn't respond to force. It responds to flow. The steps of a good person are ordered by the Lord. Psalm 37-23. But steps are not leaps. They are incremental movements, guided by awareness. And that is what heaven is requiring of you now, not performance, not perfection, but presence. Each choice you make today sets a tone. Each breath is a vote for alignment or for anxiety. And the more you honor the slowness of today, the more the rest of this month will accelerate without strain. Nature, too, is fluent in this language. Take the moon, jellyfish, a translucent creature that doesn't force its way through the ocean, but glides by sensing shifts in the current and moving with the tide. Its entire existence is built on response, not resistance. It knows when to drift, when to rise, when to descend, not by effort, but by intuition. If it resists, it fractures. If it flows, it thrives. You were never meant to fight through this season. You were meant to perceive it. So ask yourself, what am I still carrying that heaven never asked me to hold? What thoughts still echo with voices that aren't mine? What expectations have I inherited from fear instead of faith? Because August is not interested in dragging your shadow. It is here to restore your soul, but only if your hands are free enough to receive. Let today be a threshold, not a treadmill. Move slowly. Listen deeply. Don't treat this moment like a race. Treat it like a holy negotiation between your past and your becoming. In returning and rest, you shall be saved. In quietness and confidence shall be your strength. Isaiah 30-15. That quiet confidence is not laziness. It's a strategy. Heaven moves fastest through those who are not rushing. You are not late. You are not stuck. You are standing on sacred ground. And this day, this hour, is not asking you to do more. It's asking you to trust more, to let go, to breathe, to open, because the life you've been praying for doesn't come through sprinting. It comes through alignment. Now, as you sit in the silence of the 15th of August, something invisible is pressing against your spirit. You can't see it. You might not even know how to name it. But if you're honest, you feel it, the shift in the atmosphere, the difference in the rhythm of time. Something is moving beneath the surface of everything. Conversations don't land the same. Your body feels like it's preparing for something you can't see. You're not imagining this. The heartbeat of time is pulsing at a new frequency. And those sensitive to it, those chosen, can hear the change echoing through their bones. If you've noticed this, you've already begun your crossing. But even if you haven't, heaven doesn't wait for your awareness to begin the work. Some transformations start while the mind is asleep. Some contracts are activated in silence. What matters most is not when you noticed, but how you respond now. He gives his beloved rest. Salmea asarim vishevashtaim. August is not merely a shift on the calendar. It is a spiritual inflection point, a rerouting of timelines. July severed your old path, your old strategies, your old identity. That's why in recent days you may have felt untethered, confused, or strangely exhausted. But what felt like aimlessness was actually your soul unraveling from an outdated assignment. God does not allow divine ones to stay woven into timelines that no longer serve their anointing. And now, August presents a doorway, It does not force you through it. It stands still and waits for your decision. But what kind of decision is this? It's not about a job, or a person, or a place. It's deeper. It's internal obedience that will realign your external reality. Heaven is asking you, will you still identify with the version of yourself I already retired, or will you step into the identity I wrote before you were born? Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1:1. There is a quiet law written into every spiritual upgrade. The old identity must be buried without a funeral. This choice, though it may seem small, sends a signal to the heavens, a signal that says, I'm not who I was. I accept the new. And this signal does not travel through words. It travels through posture, through presence, through surrender. August's test is subtle, which is why many fail it. They wait for lightning, but God often speaks in tremors. They look for confirmation, but heaven waits for commitment. Choose this day whom you will serve. Joshua 24:15. Not in theory, in embodiment. And if you're hesitating today, it's not because you're confused. It's because part of you still wants to stay safe in the old frequency, even if that frequency nearly drowned you. But know this, familiarity is not the same as alignment. Not every storm you survived is worth returning to. There's an ancient law written in the spirit. What you refuse to release will eventually rot in your hands. It happened to Pharaoh, a ruler with all earthly power, yet spiritually bankrupt. Each time heaven gave him a chance to surrender, he hardened his heart. Each time the divine offered mercy, he doubled down on control. And when the new timeline came for the Israelites, Pharaoh didn't just miss it, he drowned beneath it. Because when you fight what heaven has already chosen, you don't stop the shift. You only remove yourself from the blessing. You are not Pharaoh. But do not mistake delay for mercy. This decision, the one in your soul right now, is not logistical. It is covenantal. Have you answered the contract heaven placed in your spirit? Because at the start of every divine cycle, the universe echoes the terms you agreed to before birth. These aren't written in ink. They're written in burden, in longing, in deep unrest that refuses to be silenced. And today, those invisible terms are being reawakened. That is why you feel the friction. That is why this silence feels so loud. That is why your body knows you're standing at a gate, even if your mind can't explain it. The test is not external. It's vibrational. Will you align with the new timeline, or keep mimicking the rhythm of what no longer fits? Nature gives us a model. The caterpillar doesn't force itself out of the cocoon by strength, it emerges by frequency. There is a moment when the vibration of new life inside becomes stronger than the tension of the shell, and the old form releases. But if the caterpillar resists that signal, or if someone tries to help it escape before its wings are ready, it dies. It isn't the timing that kills it. It's the misalignment. So ask yourself, am I still performing a version of myself heaven already released? Am I scared of what this next dimension might require of me? Am I secretly trying to bring old agreements into a new covenant? Because August's door does not open with effort. It opens with embodiment. It opens when you stop proving and start posturing, when you stop clinging and start releasing, when your frequency says to the realm of spirit, I am ready now, not because I understand, but because I surrender. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. You are not being asked to do everything. You are being asked to become someone, and that becoming starts not with perfection, but with a whisper, I accept the new. That whisper is louder than any prayer you've prayed. When you withhold forgiveness or suppress the truth, your soul longs to release. When you shrink back into familiar roles that no longer fit just to feel safe, you are not delaying time. You are distancing yourself from your covenant. This month is not asking for a show of faith, but a living surrender. And what the Spirit asks of you now may appear subtle, even invisible. But that is what makes it sacred. The divine doesn't always confront you with loud instructions. Sometimes it watches to see whether you'll move when all it gives is a whisper. And the whisper is clear. Do not betray yourself this time. This is the moment to refuse silence when your voice knows it was born to speak. This is when pretending to be small for the comfort of others becomes spiritual disobedience. August does not reward performance. It rewards integrity. And integrity begins when your inner life no longer competes with your public one. The transformation you're waiting for doesn't begin with crowds or clarity. It begins in corners, the kind where no one is watching, where you sit in a quiet room and finally tell yourself the truth, where you choose to forgive someone who will never apologize, where you grieve in the dark, not for drama, but because your spirit needed space to breathe. And in those moments, though unseen by others, the architecture of your future shifts silently but permanently. Your Father, who sees in secret, will reward you openly. Matthew 6. August doesn't need spectacle to release a breakthrough. It needs alignment. And that alignment starts the moment your inner frequency stops chasing validation and begins resonating with authenticity. Not the polished kind, the raw, trembling, tear-streaked honesty that says, "This is who I am, and I will not betray her again just to survive what I've already outgrown." The truth is, your new timeline will not announce itself with trumpets. It will respond to the unseen choice you make when no one is clapping. That quiet yes, that subtle realignment, that release of the grudge you've carried so long it became part of your personality. Those are the keys to the door. And yes, the danger is real. If you fill today with noise, cling to old versions of yourself, or drown in conversations that numb your intuition, the message of this month won't disappear. It will simply reach you later, blurred, distorted, and diluted. The clarity will fade. The invitation will wait. But the door may not, because today isn't just a beginning. It's a blueprint. The energy you choose to embody now is what the coming weeks will expand. The divine responds not to how loudly you ask, but to how honestly you live. You will also decide on a matter, and it will be established for you, and light will shine on your ways. Job 22:28. There is no more time to pretend you don't know what this is. You do. You've felt it in your body. You've seen it in dreams. You've sensed it in conversations that left you oddly shaken. The truth you've been avoiding isn't hiding anymore. It's hovering in your chest, waiting for your agreement. And the moment you give it permission, everything begins to breathe differently. This month will not change because of a miracle. It will change because of one sacred moment where you stop running, stop performing, stop apologizing for the power that keeps chasing you, and simply say, "I'm not who I was. I'm ready for what's next." Nature confirms this rhythm. The ocean doesn't fight to prove its tide. It waits for the pull of the moon, then moves with force that never explains itself. And among its many mysteries is the jellyfish, soft, translucent, and weightless, yet fully surrendered to the current. It never forces, it feels, it listens to vibration and follows the flow. It survives not by aggression, but by sensitivity. And in this season, you are not being asked to crush forward. You are being asked to yield, to sense, to move with heaven's current, not human timelines. In returning and rest, you shall be saved. In quietness and confidence shall be your strength. Isaiah 30:15. History is full of those who missed their moment because they mistook stillness for irrelevance. Nero did. While Rome trembled with spiritual unrest, he drowned out the sound with performance and distraction. As pressure built, he staged spectacles and played music over the fires that would consume his name. He mistook control for authority and was buried by the weight of what he ignored. His downfall wasn't immediate, it was incremental, built on daily choices to avoid truth. His name is now a caution, not a legacy. You are not Nero. You are not distracting yourself while foundations are shifting. You are present, alert, awake. You feel what others ignore. You hear what others drown out. You are aware that something is dissolving globally and emerging quietly. The collective frequency is shifting, and only those who pause, who listen, who align will rise within it. This month didn't just begin for you, it began for the world. There's a subtle unrest in every major city, a tension in conversations, a vibration under headlines no one can quite name. Something is melting, moving, turning, and you, chosen one, have been positioned to perceive it first. Don't abandon that awareness. Don't mute the signal just because it makes you uncomfortable. Are you willing to be fully awake while the world chooses to stay numb? Don't trade clarity for comfort. Don't barter sensitivity for survival. Don't apologize for hearing God where others hear static. Stay with it. Sit in it. Whisper back with your life, I am not afraid of this shift. I was born for it. On a spiritual level, this isn't just another month passing. It is divine architecture being enforced. The universe is realigning timelines, not randomly, but by resonance. Who is in position? Who is still clinging to expired stories? This is not a time of reward or punishment. It is a time of measurement. Your frequency is speaking louder than your words, and the silence you're feeling, that's not absence, it's an audit. Can you remain in alignment when everything familiar feels unstable? Not because you're weak, but because the old scaffolding around your soul has been dismantled. The universe is placing you exactly where your next spiritual assignment begins. But placement is not about convenience, it's about obedience. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Psalm 127:1. This is a sacred construction zone. The old timeline is being evacuated, and only those who yield to the new blueprint will rise with it. But spiritual alignement, demande spiritual courage. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that surrenders. Not the kind that conquers, but the kind that listens. The battlefield of August isn't outside, it's internal. It's found in the thoughts you avoid, the silence you suppress, the truths you delay speaking. The steps of a good person are ordered by the Lord, Psalm 37:23. But you still have to step. This month is accelerating, days are blending. Time is folding. That's not stress, that's compression. Heaven is shortening the timeline to push decision. Now is the time of God's favor. Now is the day of salvation. 2 Corinthians 6:2. It's not about more signs, it's about what you do with the ones you've already received. Why are you still asking for confirmation when you've already been given clarity? You don't need more signs. You need more surrender. And nature understands this more than we do. When tectonic plates beneath the ocean shift, they do so silently until they don't. That tremor becomes a tsunami, not because it was violent, but because it was precise. You may feel calm today, but that quiet is not empty, it's loaded. You are standing on sacred fault lines. One choice. And everything changes. August demands focus. And more than that, it demands honesty. If you dissipate your energy in distractions, if you betray the inner knowing, God keeps whispering. The timeline that was being written for your elevation will be paused. You might not lose your destiny, but you could delay it. Pilate delayed nothing and still lost everything. But he's not the only one. Take Herod, a king obsessed with preserving his own image, terrified of the rise of another. When he heard of Jesus' birth, he didn't worship. He ordered the slaughter of every male child under 2. What was the result? His name became forever stained in history, not as a ruler, but as a butcher of destiny. His paranoia tried to kill prophecy, and in doing so, he revealed his own emptiness. Who are you trying to silence in order to keep control of your old version? August is not here to rush you. It is here to rebuild you deliberately, patiently, layer by sacred layer. If July stripped what was shallow, August is laying down the roots of what will last. The boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Surely I have a delightful inheritance. Psalm 16:6. But you only inherit what you're aligned with, not what you admire. That alignment requires an answer, not a post, not a performance. Just a clear yes or no in your spirit. Because the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Habakkuk 2:20. That silence you keep running from, that's where the instruction lives. What if this silence is not punishment, but preparation for your public shift? Will you keep postponing the door because you're afraid of who you'll have to become? This is not the time to blend in. It's the time to break out. The secret key to this month isn't hidden in something dramatic or loud. It's in one quiet but deliberate act, stabilizing your frequency. When you chase conversations that drain you, when you scroll endlessly through other people's noise, or when you return to emotional habits you outgrew long ago, your frequency falters and the divine doors gently seal, not out of punishment, but protection. Because August doesn't respond to force, it responds to readiness. Are you walking toward your future or reacting to your past? Every moment this month is a negotiation with destiny. Not loud contracts, but subtle whispers. Every yes you utter in alignment. Every no you speak in integrity. Every boundary you draw in quiet strength, each becomes a signal that heaven receives, processes, and responds to. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Proverbs 18:21. Even the words you think but do not say are part of the frequency you're building. And this is not just about today. This month is a spiritual technology calibrating your 2025 before you even reach it. Imagine a satellite reconfiguring its orbit. One slight shift now completely alters where it will be 6 months later. That's how sensitive this alignment is. August is a reset code, but not a generic one. It's encrypted specifically to your soul's architecture. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43:19. The fatigue you've been dragging behind you like a shadow. The emotional clutter you couldn't name this month. It begins to dissolve, slowly, gently, almost like a sacred fog lifting. It's as if your inner landscape is being dusted off by a divine archivist. Every forgotten dream, every suppressed emotion, every voice you buried so others could be comfortable, he's touching it now. Not to shame you, but to resurrect you. Will you let God reset you without clinging to the outdated version of yourself? And know this, the reset won't just touch one part of your life. It's woven across your relationships, purpose, health, finances, and identity, but only if you give him room. That's why silence isn't a weakness this month, it's a strategy. Let us not forget a name history barely mourns. Judas Iscariot, a man chosen, walking with Jesus himself, yet he allowed distraction, offense, and greed to warp his frequency. One decision, made in the shadows, closed every divine door he could have walked through. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. James 1:8. Judas didn't fall by accident. He fell by resonance with the wrong spirit. And speaking of resonance, quantum physicists have long observed the phenomenon of quantum entanglement, where two particles become so interlinked that changing one instantly affects the other. Even across vast distances, in a spiritual sense, you are entangled with heaven. The vibration you hold today affects what heaven releases tomorrow. If your energy shifts, your outcomes shift. You are not separate from the divine timeline, you are entangled with it. This is why August urges you pull back, breathe with intention, make room for realignment. Because this isn't simply a new month, it's the first whisper of a new destiny. One that doesn't shout, one that doesn't chase, but one that quietly asks, are you in position for what you once prayed for? You may feel a strange emptiness at first, but that's exactly how every divine reset begins, by creating space. Old energies loosen their grip. Habits you once called survival begin to feel heavy. Even people you've known for years may slowly fade into the background, not through conflict, but through quiet distance. It's not rejection, it's redirection. Every branch that does bear fruit he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. John Hamesh Isarash time. If you resist this pruning, August will challenge you. But if you surrender, you'll start to feel a weight lifting, subtle but undeniable. That's the soul's way of saying, you're aligning. This isn't just the end of a chapter. It's the birth of a new rhythm, one that moves slower, deeper, more deliberately. In the coming days, don't be surprised if mornings feel quieter, as if the noise of the world has dimmed slightly, as if time is stretching differently. You may not be able to explain it, but you'll feel it, this gentle unraveling inside of you. This is your internal calendar being reset, your soul stepping into a new plane. What are you still holding on to that no longer holds you? Even small things will begin to carry weight. A sentence overheard, a stranger's glance, a song you never paid attention to suddenly sounds like a prophecy. These aren't coincidences, they're coordinates. August is guiding you, not with demands, but with whispers. Whose voice have you allowed to be louder than your own inner knowing? If you keep your frequency clean, guard your peace, tend to your thoughts, and refuse to re-engage with the chaos you've outgrown, then the path ahead will become unusually clear. But if you dive back into noise, gossip, and comparison, the reset will become cloudy. Confusing dreams, emotional exhaustion, open doors that feel strangely heavy. What patterns are you afraid to release because they're familiar, even if they no longer serve you? This is why the most sacred ritual this month is simplicity, not grand gestures, not public declarations, but quiet choices made in secret. Speak less, listen deeper, reveal less, feel more. Above all, honor the silence within you, not as emptiness, but as preparation, because that silence is the soil where your new future is germinating. Let us not forget Saul, once chosen, once anointed, yet he refused to empty himself of pride. He clung to appearances, ignored prophetic instruction, and chose status over obedience. His downfall wasn't sudden. It was gradual, born in moments where he ignored the whispers. To obey is better than sacrifice. 1 Samuel 15:22. And August isn't asking for your display. It's asking for your depth. Am I finally ready to stop surviving and start aligning? If something is leaving your life this month, let it. If the phone doesn't ring, don't chase. If the old conversations feel hollow, don't force them. What's meant to be rebuilt will return differently, cleaner, lighter, sacred. Because what you're experiencing isn't emptiness. It's clearing. It's divine architecture. It's the sacred hush before the shift. As this divine reset unfolds, time itself begins to bend. You may notice the days melting into one another, or wake up wondering how a week disappeared overnight. But this isn't disorder, it's divine reordering. You're not falling behind, you're being pulled into alignment. The laws of your old rhythm are being overwritten, like gravitational shifts, reconfiguring the orbit of a planet. And if you feel the disorientation of that shift, it means you're no longer stuck in the same spiritual gravity field. Have you noticed how you're suddenly less tolerant of noise, more sensitive to energy, more aware of small moments? That's not exhaustion, it's realignment. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. John 10:27. The voice has always been there, but only in silence can you hear its frequency. Still, August won't scream its message at you. It will whisper, and those whispers carry weight. An offhand comment from someone may sting in a way it never did before. A quiet act of kindness may flood your eyes with tears. A face from your past may flash in your spirit, not to haunt, but to heal. August is the architect of subtle reversals. The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Psalm 118:22. The very things that once broke you are being repurposed to build you. There's a reason spiritual tradition treats thresholds with reverence. In ancient Israel, Passover required the blood of a lamb on the doorpost as a signal of alignment. Exodus 12:7. That's how you told heaven and darkness where you stood. Today, your alignment won't be marked in blood, but in frequency, in posture, in choice, and those choices are being recorded whether you're aware of them or not. Have you made room for the new, or are you still negotiating with the old? This month is not just a spiritual season, it's a spiritual compression algorithm. Like in quantum mechanics, energy collapses into matter only when observed. What you acknowledge becomes your reality. What you refuse to feel becomes your limitation. When you shrink back from confrontation, when you numb your awareness with distraction, when you pretend the weight is gone just because you've ignored it, that's when you forfeit the reset. Don't be like Richard Nixon, the U.S. president who clung so tightly to control that he couldn't see his own deception unraveling. His refusal to surrender quietly turned a scandal into a legacy of shame. What are you refusing to surrender that is actually staining your legacy? Compare that to the quiet discipline of Pope John Paul II, a global leader who lived through war, communism, and assassination attempts, yet wielded more influence from his posture of forgiveness than many do with armies. He once said, "The future starts today, not tomorrow." That's August energy. It's not about the loudest voice. It's about the clearest one. Is your inner voice aligned enough to guide your next step? Nature is testifying. Have you noticed the fires, floods, and droughts increasing worldwide? Creation groans with birth pains, Romans 8:22, reflecting the tension between what must end and what must begin. When the earth quakes, it doesn't apologize. It transforms. Are you still trying to apologize for your shift when you should be standing firm in it? And yet, August doesn't demand your perfection. It asks for your agreement. You can't take the dust of July into the clarity of this month. If you do, the static will distort the signs. But if you cleanse your atmosphere, you'll begin to perceive the patterns, the repeated symbols, the prophetic dreams, the emotional echoes that don't make sense yet, but soon will. Have you allowed stillness to speak louder than strategy? Because this reset isn't just about wiping your calendar, it's about recalibrating your soul. The fatigue you've been carrying like background noise for years, it begins to dissolve in this atmosphere. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. Rest isn't idleness, it's obedience. Rest is agreement with heaven's pace. And August is not here to rush you. It's here to rebuild you deliberately, patiently, layer by sacred layer. If July stripped away what was unsustainable, then August is laying down the blueprint for what will last. But elevation, even divine elevation, requires cooperation. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Psalm 127:1. God's plan will not force its way into a posture that is out of sync. You must align your stance, your speech, your silence, not just on the outside, but deep in your energy field. What habits, relationships, or thoughts are quietly lowering your frequency? Because when you entertain what you've outgrown, you confuse your blueprint. You dilute the code. You blur the signal. August isn't punishing you. It's positioning you. And you can't be both hidden and available to everyone. Some doors only open in solitude. And when you step into that solitude, you may feel a quiet emptiness at first. But don't mistake that for lack. That emptiness is sacred space, the kind only miracles can enter. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Matthew 5:8. When you cleanse your atmosphere emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you begin to see clearly again. And what you see now, in this silence, will determine the rest of your year. So let this be the question that whispers through every decision in the days ahead. Am I choosing from fear? Or am I choosing from alignment? Because August has no time for indecision. This window doesn't stay open forever. And when it closes, it won't slam. It will simply vanish, and you'll know it by the weight you still carry. You may have thought today would unfold like any other. But for those chosen by God, the 15th of August was never meant to be ordinary. It is a threshold day charged, sacred, and spiritually strategic. You woke up not just into a new morning, but into a shift that heaven has been orchestrating long before your calendar marked the date. Something unseen is unfolding, and your spirit knows it, even if your mind hasn't fully caught up. The sovereign Lord does nothing without revealing his plan to his servants, the prophets. Amos 3-7. And if your heart has been stirring without clear reason, if you've felt disconnected from the noise but unable to rest in the silence, this is why. Because today is not about what happens around you. It's about what heaven is activating within you. That heaviness in your body, that pressure behind your eyes, that subtle grief that seems to come and go like a wave. These aren't random feelings, they're spiritual alerts. The realm you belong to is sounding an alarm quietly, but urgently. Something is hunting you. Yes, but it's not just darkness. It's a distraction, confusion, the manipulation of your timeline through false comfort and emotional seduction. You are not being chased by circumstance. You are being stalked by anything that wants to pull you off the frequency of your assignment. What if this day, this exact moment, is heaven's last gentle whisper before it shifts into thunder? Why does today feel more fragile than usual? Why do you suddenly want to retreat, cancel plans, or disappear from conversations you used to tolerate? That desire for solitude is not apathy, it's divine insulation. Because what's coming next in your story can only be conceived in the womb of quiet. That's why even Christ withdrew to lonely places before miracles, very early in the morning. While it was still dark, Jesus got up and went off to a solitary place, where he prayed, Mark 1:35. And just like that, today becomes holy ground. Do you feel that tightening in your chest when you try to explain what you're going through? The reason is simple. The language of this shift is not verbal. It's spiritual. Heaven speaks in signs, in silence, in knowing. And if you force yourself to act normal today, if you step out into the wrong energy, the wrong conversation, the wrong atmosphere, you risk aborting something that was meant to be birthed in this sacred stillness. As you listen to this, some part of your inner world is trembling, not in fear, but in recognition. My sheep hear my voice, I know them, and they follow me. John 10:27. You recognize the frequency of this call, not because of logic, but because of lineage. Chosen ones don't need evidence. We move when the atmosphere shifts. And today, the atmosphere is heavy with unspoken warnings. There's a pattern to God's protection. It often looks like divine disruption. Noah was mocked for building an ark in clear weather, but God gave him a blueprint before the clouds formed. By faith, Noah, being warned by God concerning events as yet unseen, constructed an ark for the saving of his household. Hebrews 11:7. What if your obedience today protects your future storm? Why do you think so many people are strangely agitated today? Why are tensions rising over small things? Why do you feel a need to protect your peace even more than usual? This is not personal, it's prophetic. Darkness senses when chosen ones are about to awaken into a new level of clarity. That's why distraction increases. That's why temptation intensifies. That's why noise multiplies. But you must decide. Will you respond to the external noise or to the internal signal? Because the trap is subtle. Remember Judas Iscariot? He wasn't hunted from the outside. He was swallowed from within. His betrayal was birthed not in violence, but in spiritual misalignment. He followed Jesus, but his heart followed something else. And in one moment of private decision, his entire destiny collapsed. Let that warn you. Spiritual warfare doesn't always come with fire. It often comes disguised as familiarity. So today, while others scroll and rush and talk over themselves, heaven is watching to see, will you hide in the crowd or will you obey the whisper? August is not merely flipping a calendar page, it is redesigning the spiritual blueprint of your life. The divine cartographer is redrawing your path. You may think you're walking the same streets, working the same job, living the same routine, but beneath the surface, heaven is repositioning your coordinates. And no, this isn't by accident. It's because the one who formed you already whispered, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope. You are now living in the moment where that plan begins to interrupt your patterns. Those seemingly minor encounters, a glance on the street, a name you keep hearing, have a strange sense of déjà vu, aren't random. They are sacred breadcrumbs, coded with instructions, inviting you into a timeline you never planned but were born to walk. Can you feel the tension rising between who you've been and who you're being called to become? You'll begin to notice that even minor details once easily overlooked now carry weight. The air in a room might suddenly shift. Someone's tone might strike a hidden chord. You may awaken with a dream that feels more like a memory than a fantasy. That's not your imagination. That's spiritual sensitivity, sharpening. In the book of Acts, Paul had a vision of a man from Macedonia pleading, "Come over and help us." It changed the entire trajectory of his mission. Acts 16 to 9:10. What if this month, your version of that vision isn't a dream at night, but a stirring in the day that you're tempted to ignore? But don't. Because August isn't whispering, it's orchestrating. And the first rule of heaven's orchestra is this: only those in tune can hear the melody. Now pause for a moment. Ask yourself, why am I being shown this now? What emotion have I been suppressing that is trying to find its voice in this season? Where am I still pretending not to know what I already know? And yes, this month will demand bold movement. But not all movement is visible. Sometimes, the most revolutionary act is choosing clarity over chaos. If you've been procrastinating on a decision, a confession, a calling, August will not wait with you, just like the prophet Elijah, who had to move swiftly when the drought ended. 1 Kings 18:41-46. You are being called to act while the spiritual winds shift. But beware, the indecisive will be left disoriented, not as punishment, but as consequence. Delay is no longer neutral, it is dangerous. Just as Lot's wife turned to salt because she looked back, Genesis 19:26. Indecision can cost you the momentum that heaven is trying to give you. And sometimes, the enemy doesn't show up with horns and chaos, but with comfort and passivity, like Delilah, whose whisper lulled Samson into forgetting who he was. Distraction often comes dressed as ease. When you avoid the moment of clarity because it's inconvenient, you risk spiritual sedation. Nature teaches us, after a volcanic eruption, the entire geography of a landmass can shift. What once was stable ground becomes unreachable terrain. This is the energy of August. It is seismic, it is shifting, and if you ignore the tremors, you'll misinterpret the aftershocks. Do not call to mind the former things, or ponder things of the past. Behold, I will do something new. Isaiah 43:18-19. That's not just a verse, it's this month's anthem. There's something else you must understand. The small choices you make over the next few days will compound, like a psychological phenomenon in behavioral economics called the compounding bias. Even a 1% shift in your thoughts today becomes exponential over time. That yes, you keep whispering in secret. That no, you're too scared to say aloud. They are stacking silently into your timeline. What parts of your life still echo with old sentences that no longer match your new voice? And here's the truth. You are not being asked to be perfect. You are being asked to be present. Not loud, just aligned. August will move for you when you move in sync with heaven. The page is blank, but your fingerprints are already on the pen. You've made it this far for a reason. Chosen one. August has already begun revealing itself to you, through the restless nights, through the odd silences, through the spiritual flashes you couldn't explain but couldn't ignore. This isn't the beginning of a shift, it's the middle of one. And the way you respond now will either stabilize what heaven is trying to build through you, or leave the door open for old cycles to return. Ask yourself, what has God been repeating to you lately? What has He allowed to unravel just so you'd finally release it? You're not imagining the spiritual intensity, you're being positioned. Mid-month is not a lull, it's a checkpoint, a divine recalibration. If this word confirmed what you've been sensing, if it made you breathe deeper or see clearer, honor the moment. Like this video. Share it with another warrior who's in the thick of it. Comment 777 below if you know God is still shifting things in your favor. And subscribe if you haven't. Because this space isn't entertainment, it's a spiritual strategy. We don't just talk, we discern, we intercede, we act. To those who've supported through super thanks. I bless every seed, every sacrifice. But even if all you gave today was your attention, thank you. Your presence here is not passive, it is prophetic. Now I speak this over you. May your steps be sharpened with discernment. May your silence become your sanctuary. May your decision birth new dimensions. May your timeline align with heaven. You're not late. You're not behind. You're exactly where transformation happens. Mid-August is not a pause. It's a prophecy. Walk it wisely. Walk it awake. Walk it chosen.